So we're into section 5. In section 5 we've just talked about lyrics, but now in section 5 we're going to talk about music. Now when you're a beginner at writing music, whether it's writing an acoustic guitar, on a piano, on your computer, doing loops, etc. We've already talked about this sort of basic chord idea of majors and minors, and I said to you I'm not going to get technical, this is a beginner's guide. You're going to find your way through with chords that really kind of capture the story and the essence that you're trying to capture. Remember we talked about top line, that line that I tend to remember from a song. It's a top line that can occur in a chorus, it could even be the end of the first verse, or even a middle eight. There's a line in there that people often remember because it's just, I don't know, it's resonant with them. Now, as I said, in my notes, I've kind of referred to things like our favourite songs. Why is it our favourite songs? What is the music? Why does it touch us? Why does it reach out? So I'm now putting the lyrics to one side just briefly. What is that tune? What is that tune? And we say to ourselves, well, I like the idea of and this kind of gentle rundown, or I like the idea of a song. Now, these are all different techniques on an acoustic guitar, but they're kind of using these big chords, but they're just collections of chords. They're collections of sounds that are trying to capture the emotion. So what I'd like to do for you now, I'm going to get my capo, and I'm just going to play 4 chords, but what I'm going to do, I'm just going to play them in a slightly different way each time. So we talked about, remember, beats per minute, we talked about speed, we talked about the kind of emphasis of what I'm trying to say musically. Remember, this is about music, not talking about lyrics. So I mentioned before that 4 chords, many of the greatest songs ever written were 4 chords, 5, 6. Let's play that again, but this time same chords, slightly different emphasis. Big anthem. Same 4 chords, but they're giving a really different emotion, they're giving a different feel. And the last one, completely ripping all of the tune out of there, so it's almost just like a, and then there's a long silence, and that could be filled with a lyric, it could be filled with other instruments, etc. But what we've taken is 4 chords, the same, change the speed, change the emotion within them. So the trickiest part is, how do I write a tune? Well, think about the songs you like. Think about, I'll give you a classic example. It's a kind of big rock tune that a lot of rock people play, which is Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. And and you'll find lots of these bands, these big anthemic sounds. And how do they find them? Well, as I said to you, I'm a guitarist, so I sit down with the guitar, and of course I make my hands go into shapes, and that's where the chords are. Keyboard players, pianists do the same thing. People on a computer might think, I've got a tune, but I haven't got an instrument. And I'm going to jump sideways here, which is one of the things that always blew me away about the classical composers. These guys didn't sit with an instrument, they sat with a piece of paper. And in their head, they could hear doodle-doodle-doom, ba-bum, bum, bum, and they wrote that. They didn't play it, but they could hear it in their head. we are sometimes the same. So you can be a kind of mini Beethoven, because you might be out and think, oh, I've got this do, 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 and you sing it into your phone, and you come home and on your computer, your piano or your guitar, you go, so, what's that? And you play it, and then you work out what the chord's going to be with that. Do 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 do. So in other words, you can just hum something and work out afterwards how the chords work and fit. So never be frightened about where is my tune, where is my music going to come from, because you've probably got a neat idea. Just hum it and sing it, work it out afterwards. So just back to my notes, because I want to just do this kind of last little piece. Top line. I want to just really return to that top line idea. The top line is that song line that I remember. Now, this is a very obscure old song, but it always amuses me how it supplanted the actual top line of the song. And it was a Neil Diamond song called Sweet Caroline. And for some odd reason, and I saw a brilliant story about it, it's Sweet Caroline, do-do-do, and that bit was actually a horn solo. They didn't know what to do, so we had this Mexican band come in, and the only thing they thought to do was go ba-ba-da, and weirdly, even though the song is since you began, do-do-do, da-dum, ba-dum, ba-da-da, that's the song. If you ever go to a big concert or a big show and anybody does it, the bit the entire crowd will always sing on is ba-ba-da, which is a horn bit. So that tells you that the top line can be whatever you can imagine and can come from the most weird sources, but if it is memorable. Remember that word I used before, the hook. Remember the German word, Ohrwurm, the worm in the ear going blah, 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 and it made me remember that song. And the next time somebody says to me, oh, I love that song, you go, what is it? You know the one, it does that do, 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 and you go, oh, I love that song. You're normally singing the top line. So when you look for a top line, and it's your chorus, often, but it could be the last line of the verse. It could be the first line of the song. Remember we talked about repetition a bit. You know, sometimes we have to repeat. The verse should sound like, first verse should sound like the second verse musically. Otherwise the song's a bit weird in its structure. Repetition. To repeat a tune. Maybe not repeat a lyric, although that can sometimes happen. But repeating that tune again and again burns into my brain, and by the end of it, I can't stop singing that song. And we've all said that. That tune has stayed with me. Creepily, look at adverts. If you look at adverts, some of the most famous adverts have a little piece of music. And for whatever reason, when you say, do you remember that advert? They will sing you whatever the theme bit was. Boo-bee-dee-bee-doo. A classic example of this, just to wrap up on my musical bit, look at the advertising industry come Christmas. We're bombarded every year by these giant famous Christmas ads that cost millions. And they take a song, and I remember from last year, and remember I'm talking, and this is March 2022, but there was this song and it went, there was this sort of snow falling, and this guy went, I've got chills, they're multiplying, and I'm losing control. And I was listening to it thinking, I know that song. I know that song. And I realised, actually, it was the song from Greece that went, well, I've got chills, they multiply, and I'm losing control. And what they'd done, and this is the famous trick I want you to really, really latch onto, slow it down or speed it up. So you can take a really well-known song, and in this case, we're talking about songwriting your song, and suddenly say to yourself, I've got a piece of music I like, but what if I played it at half the speed? What would the effect be? Remember we talked earlier about beats per minute. Just because you've written a song that is da 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 da, would it sound da 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 da? So those three chords, E minor, C and D, sound very different musically, even though they're the same chords. So last thing, I talked about this repeated stuff, repeat this, repeat that, repeated musical phrases. And the honest answer is, What is that phrase? How do you identify it? Where does it come from? Well, as I said all the way through, it's your imagination, it's your story. You're trying to couch your words, and I'm going to give you an interesting analogy. A diamond on a ring sits in this kind of clasp thing that holds the diamond. And because the clasp thing is done so beautifully, we see the best of the diamond. And sometimes music is that, and the diamond is the lyric, and it really draws us into the lyric because that little clasp of music that holds it in place is just so perfect. So, don't panic. Simplicity. Remember, I told you before, best songs in the world, 4, 5, 6 songs maximum. When we talk about moving on, and we'll talk about that in the next series, we're talking about improving your musical skills. And once again, I referred to that earlier, practice. Don't be lazy, don't be complacent. Can I improve my music? Can I learn better? And I'm talking about on a guitar, a piano, even in the computer. Because you're finding the more you practice, the more your skills come up, the more your imagination goes, hey, musically, why don't I suddenly let that chord just hang? Don't add another chord. Let a silence fill it. And silence is a very interesting thing, isn't it? A gap in music. And then the lyrics fill that. No other chord, no other chord. And then, so in other words, I'm getting you into the mindset now. You know how to create a lyric, you've got the tools to do it. You should now know where to find your music, how to bring that music. And think of that little analogy I said. Your music is this beautiful clasp that holds the diamond in place. Without the diamond, this wouldn't look any good. Without that, the diamond would fall on the floor. We put the two together and we have a perfect song. Practice. That's really the name of the game. So I'm going to wrap it up now by essentially saying to you, the next section we're going to be talking about equipment, but I just want to refer you to what we said, narrative. That buzzword I keep throwing at you. Musically, what is the narrative? Lyrically, what is the narrative? We talked about practice. We talked about structure. These words, I want you to keep writing down. This is going to become the framework. Remember I talked about a template. I'm trying to give you a template, just like a basic website where you can drop all the bits in. But you are going to have to create that framework, and you are going to have to make that frame yourself. Once you've done one, it's easy from then on, because you know it's a map. Follow these things along, and that's where your song's going to come from. I'm going to leave you with that for now. So just remember, to become a songwriter is really desire. If you really, really want to do this, practice, think of the things we've done on our little journey so far, and remember, your songs are as good as anybody else's. Don't let people put you down or that's not very good, etc. It's really important to have faith in yourself and the material that you're going to create. I'm going to leave you with that to have a little think about, and I'll see you in section 6.